When you think about history, are there lots of old guys wearing wigs and stockings? When you think about history, is Napoleon really short? And folks have wooden teeth. Do you know that history can be the most incredible, amazing stories for you and me? Sit back and listen to a story right now. It's honest, it's fun, and it's sure to.
Hi, young historians. Welcome to another episode of Anytime Now. I'm Brooke, co-founder of Honest History. Are you as excited about this episode as I am? I sure hope so. We're about to dive into another story-filled adventure and learn something new. And remember, by learning more about the past, you can make a positive impact on the future. So pack your bags and let's go.
In the 1920s, a brave young teacher named Inez Lung charted her own path. She would be the first Chinese woman to attend the University of Texas. And during World War II, she risked her life to stay with her students, even as bombs fell from the sky. Today, few people know about Inez's life, but her story is not about being famous or being the loudest person in the room. It's about something much more powerful: learning. It's also about courage, kindness, and persevering against unfairness. This is the story of Inez Lung in The Power of Learning. One spring day in Texas, a little girl named Inez was born. It was the turn of the century, 1900. This was a time when most people traveled by horse or train. No cars were zooming on the road, and no airplanes were soaring through the sky. It was a time when many people still read by gaslight because most homes didn't have electricity. It was also a time when more and more people began moving to Texas. Inez's father, Joe Lung, came to Texas in the 1870s to build the railroads. He had been born in China, and like many of his fellow countrymen, he had traveled all the way to the United States searching for opportunity. Growing up, Inez heard stories about her father's work. Teams of men, many from China, laid the tracks by hand. For hours, they shoveled dirt to make a path for the railroad or hammered metal spikes into the tracks. Sometimes they had to build bridges over rivers or use black powder to blast through rock. It was a very hard and dangerous job. After Joe finished his work on the railroad, he decided to settle in Austin, Texas. There, Inez's parents opened a cafe where they cooked up all kinds of delicious meals for their hungry customers. At the Joe Lung Cafe, you could get crispy fried chicken, juicy burgers, and tasty egg rolls. Inez's mother and father worked very hard at the cafe to support their 9 children. The Lung family was one of the few Chinese families in Austin. And, at that time, life in Texas was not fair for everyone. The United States had passed a law called the Chinese Exclusion Act. Under this law, Chinese children were not allowed to go to public schools. While many of Inez's neighbors went to school, she had to stay home. And, as a girl, Inez faced yet another barrier. At that time, many people believed that girls did not need a school education. Instead, they taught girls should learn at home, where they could focus on cooking, sewing, needlework, and managing a household. But Inez showed great curiosity and love to learn. If she went to school, she could study literature, geography, and history. She could learn how to count, add, and subtract. And if she did well, she could go to college and become a teacher. A neighbor noticed Inez's bright, thoughtful mind and wanted to do something. With the neighbor's help, 8-year-old Inez attended a church school where she received a full education. Inez loved school so much that it was hard to get her to go to bed. There were so many things she wanted to keep learning, or schoolwork she wanted to finish. This was an important moment because learning didn't just teach Inez facts. Learning gave her the power to explore. Learning helped her ask questions, find answers and solutions, and tell the difference between what was fair and what was not. Learning helped her imagine a bigger world with confidence. For the next 10 years, Inez would study hard at school, learning everything she could. Then, when she was 19, she received a letter in the mail. She was nervous as she tore open the envelope. To her delight, the letter informed her that she had been accepted into the University of Texas. No one in her family had ever gone to college before, and no Chinese woman had ever studied at the University of Texas. Inez's father was immediately worried. He loved his daughter, but he believed something very common at the time, that a girl could only be happy if she married and took care of her family. Her mother saw things differently. She believed Inez was the most educated child in the family and encouraged Inez to continue learning. "You could become the scholar of our family," her mother said. Inez stood between two voices. Both came from love, but they pointed to different futures. At a time when very few women, and even fewer women of color, went to college, Inez made a brave choice. She stepped through the university gates, into a place where almost no one looked like her. For the next 4 years, Inez worked very hard at the University of Texas. She decided to study English literature and loved reading the works of William Shakespeare. She also signed up for the women's hockey team and attended classes at her local church. She spent this time exploring her passions and figuring out who she wanted to be. After she graduated from college in 1923, Inez felt hopeful about her future. One day, a teacher pulled her aside with a question. Had she ever thought about becoming a missionary? It was a path that could take her far beyond Texas, allowing her to teach in countries she had only ever read about. The idea excited Inez. She quickly applied for a job with a mission organization. She imagined herself teaching girls in her homeland, China, sharing knowledge and helping them learn. For Inez, this felt like a dream job. But not everyone agreed. Even though Inez was talented, hardworking, and well-educated, there were still doubts. Some people in the mission organization began to question her. "Can a Chinese woman really do such an important job?" some asked. "We have never sent a Chinese woman before," others said. The organization typically sent white Americans or Europeans overseas. They rarely sent Chinese Americans. In China, the organization often paid Chinese workers less than American workers. Because Inez was both Chinese and American, the organization was unsure what to do and decided not to let her teach in her homeland. Instead, they offered her positions in Mexico, South America, and Africa. This was unfair, and unfair situations like this still exist today. But even when people doubted Inez, she did not doubt herself. She chose to become stronger. She found teaching work in Texas. She returned to school to study history and later earned 2 master's degrees. Finally, in 1927, the same year she completed her master's degree at the University of Texas, Inez got the opportunity she hoped for. Mary, a principal from a school in China, had come to speak in Austin. Inez listened to Mary's talk with interest. She spoke of a school in Guangzhou that taught girls how to read and write. This was unique in China, where, for centuries, young girls had rarely been given a formal education. After the talk, Inez asked to speak with Mary. "Please take me back to China with you," Inez said. Mary was impressed by the young woman standing before her. Mary believed Inez would be a wonderful teacher and offered her a position at the Puyi two-girls school. Finally, Inez would begin her journey to China.
Hi, friends. Are you enjoying today's episode? I'd like to take a quick break from the story to tell you about another great place to learn about the past. Honest History creates magazines and books for kids that are filled with fun stories and activities that bring history to life. From pirates to spies to great inventions and so much more, you'll learn about interesting people, places, and events from around the world that made history. Created for kids ages 6 through 12, you can sign up and receive new adventures delivered straight to your doorstep every quarter. Just visit honesthistory.co. That's honesthistory.co to sign up today. Oh, and here's a special offer for our podcast listeners. Use code ANYTIMENOW for 10% off. Again, that special code is ANYTIMENOW. Okay, let's get back to the story.
In 1927, Inez boarded a boat in San Francisco, California. She heard the whistle blow as the ship got ready to leave. Nervous and excited, she placed her bags in her sleeping quarters. She had never made such a long journey before. She would be traveling to a land her father had left more than 50 years earlier. Several weeks later, she stepped off the ship in Hong Kong and took in a deep breath. The air of her ancestral homeland carried the cool, slightly salty freshness of the South China Sea. Small fishing boats sailed by as she walked along the dock. She had one last boat to catch. This one was headed to her new home in Guangzhou, where she would meet her students. She had every hope that she could help her students. At that time, many girls in China were not allowed to go to school. But at Puyi 2, girls learned to read and write, to think, to sing, to exercise, and to discover their power to explore the world. For Inez, learning was not only about improving yourself. Learning could also help you support and protect others. But life for Inez and her students would drastically change. In 1937, Inez heard the rumble of airplanes as she got ready for work. That summer, the Japanese began their full-scale invasion of China. World War II had begun. As an American, Inez had a way out. She could escape China and return home to the safety of the United States. But Inez refused. She would not abandon her students. Over the next few years, bombs fell from the sky. Cities were destroyed. Schools had to move again and again. Inez moved with her students and her school, from Guangzhou to Zhaoqing, Hong Kong, Macau, and Guilin, so they could stay together and keep learning. During air raids, she held her students' hands in shelters and read to them to calm their fears. Food was scarce during the war. One day, a former student brought her something precious, a few cans of sardines. Instead of keeping them for herself, Inez shared the food with her students. Sometimes her family in Texas sent Inez packages with food and vitamins. She always shared them with her students and other teachers at the school. Inez used what she had to care for others. In 1943, Inez was called back to the United States, but the journey was far from easy. She traveled on trains across Asia and took a warship to Australia. Eventually, after several weeks, she landed back in San Francisco. She had one more train journey until she finally got home to Austin, Texas. Being in Texas brought back many memories for Inez. Her family still ran their cafe. She could smell the familiar scents of fried chicken, egg rolls, burgers, and coffee as soon as she opened the door. During this visit, many different organizations and communities invited Inez to speak. People wanted to hear how she had continued teaching and caring for her students during the war. They wanted to learn from her courage and her choices. Inez went to her old university and traveled to different churches and clubs to tell her story. And each time, the people in the audience were moved by her courage and her enthusiasm. Many were thankful to even have met a person like Inez. She had faced so much during the war, but she did not change her purpose, even when she was afraid. Even when bombs fell and food was scarce, she stayed with her students. She continued to teach them. Over time, more people began to understand and respect how important Inez's work really was. In her life, she had faced discrimination and hardship, but she did not let unfairness decide who she was. She found her value through learning and steady work. When she faced injustice, she chose to respond by helping others and educating the next generation. After Inez's trip to Texas, she returned to China to get back to her students. She knew her work was not done and could not help but think that the girls still needed her. In her classroom, Inez taught not only about knowledge, but also how to think. Most importantly, she taught her students to believe in their own worth. Many of the girls Inez taught grew up to become teachers, doctors, leaders, and people who cared for their communities. Because of her, more girls were able to chase their own dreams and discover their own value. After more than 30 years of teaching, Inez retired and returned to her hometown, Austin. She lived a quiet life, but she was deeply respected for her courage and devotion. Inez passed away in 2004. She was 104 years old. But her story did not end. It lives on in her students and in the classroom she helped build. Inez's life reminds us that learning can give us strength, courage can help us face challenges, and kindness can change the world in lasting ways. And in the 21st century, you can choose to live with the same courage, to learn, to think, and to face life with an open heart.
Welcome back! What did you think of today's adventure? We hope you learned something new. Be sure to share the story with your friends and family, and use what you've learned today to go out there and make a positive impact on history yourself. That's all for now, but if you want to learn more about important and amazing stories from the past, be sure to subscribe to Honest History Magazine, where you'll discover stories from around the world. Thanks for listening. This episode was written by Xuhua Zhan, edited by Heidi Coburn, narrated by Randall Lawrence, and produced by Robot Pirate Media. To learn more about Honest History, visit us at honesthistory.co and follow along for updates on social media.